The glass shattered before anyone could speak. Cole Whitfield threw it himself, not in rage but in calculation. He stood in the middle of their penthouse living room, chest heaving, eyes cold, watching the crystal tumbler explode against the marble floor. Shards scattered across the tiles like broken stars, and Zara, his wife of 2 years, flinched so hard she knocked her wine glass off the kitchen counter. Red wine bled slowly across the white countertop like something wounded. She stared at him. He stared back. And then, with a stillness that was more frightening than the shattered glass, he said, "We're done, everything is gone. The money, the properties, all of it finished." Zara blinked. "Gone? What do you mean gone? Cole, what are you?" "I mean gone, Zara, bankrupt, wiped out, we have nothing left." She went very, very quiet. And in that silence, that single, terrible pause before she responded, Cole Whitfield learned everything he needed to know about his marriage. He just didn't know yet how badly it would break him. To understand what happened that night, you have to understand where Zara came from, and where Cole had built himself up from. Cole Whitfield grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment in the east side of Houston, Texas, with a mother who worked 3 jobs and a father who was mostly absent. He remembered the specific shame of wearing the same shoes for 2 school years in a row, of eating plain rice for dinner and pretending it was a choice. He remembered his mother's hands, cracked and dry from cleaning other people's offices at midnight, and he made himself a promise at 16 that he would never, ever let a person he loved look that tired again. He built his real estate empire the way a man builds a wall in a storm, brick by desperate brick. His first deal was a condemned duplex he bought for $40,000, renovated with his own hands on weekends, and sold 8 months later for $112,000. He reinvested every cent. He slept on a cot in his first office. He ate peanut butter sandwiches for 18 months straight. He read contracts until 3 in the morning and still showed up at construction sites by 6. By 34, Cole Whitfield was worth $320 million. He was 35 when he met Zara. Zara Phillips was the kind of beautiful that made rooms go quiet. She had grown up in modest circumstances, not poor but not comfortable either. Her father was a school teacher. Her mother sold fabric at the local market. They had enough barely, and Zara had learned early that enough was not what she wanted. She met Cole at a fundraising gala for a children's hospital. She was there as the plus one of a friend. He was there as one of the key donors. She wore a borrowed red dress. He was in a suit that cost more than her father's monthly salary. She didn't know who he was when she bumped into him near the drinks table and spilled champagne on his jacket. "I'm so sorry," she said, grabbing napkins and pressing them uselessly against the fabric. "It's fine," he said, and smiled in a way that was not at all annoyed. "You can make it up to me by having a conversation that has nothing to do with investment returns or tax strategy." She laughed. He stayed by her side for the rest of the evening. 6 months later, he proposed in a private charter over the Caribbean. She said yes before he finished the sentence. And then Zara Phillips became Zara Whitfield, and the life she had always wanted to live opened its doors and swallowed her whole. In the beginning, Cole watched her joy with pure happiness. He had wanted this to give someone he loved the world. He watched her face light up the first time she walked into their penthouse. He watched her press her palm against the marble island in the kitchen and whisper, "This is real." He had kissed her temple and said, "All of it is real." He gave her a supplementary card attached to his main account. He told her the limit was flexible. He trusted her completely. That was his first mistake. The spending started slowly. A shopping trip here, a spa weekend there, business class flights when economy would have served just fine, designer handbags that arrived in boxes so large the doorman had to help carry them upstairs. Zara told herself she deserved these things. After years of watching other women live this way, she had earned the right to participate. But earned was doing a lot of work in that sentence, and Cole was too in love and too busy to examine it closely. The first card statement that made him pause was in their third month of marriage. $47,000 in a single month. He said nothing. He told himself she was still adjusting. She was still learning the rhythms of their life together. By month 6, the monthly spend had climbed to $80,000. He finally said something. He sat down with her one Sunday morning and placed the statement on the table between them. "Babe," he said carefully, "what is this?" Zara looked at the paper without touching it. "What?" $80,000 in 1 month. On what? Cole. She tilted her head, and her voice was the kind of patient that is actually impatient. "You have over $300 million. 80,000 is nothing to you. Why are you making this a conversation?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Because it's not about the amount, it's about what it was spent on. Clothes, experiences, things that make life beautiful." She reached across and touched his hand. "Cole, you work so hard, let me enjoy it. Isn't that why you built all of this?" He felt something shift in his chest. Not quite alarm, not quite peace either. He let it go. That was his second mistake. By the first anniversary, Zara had redecorated their penthouse twice, neither time consulting Cole. She had started a social media account that documented their lifestyle, private jet content, 5-star hotel suites, designer unboxings. She had 300,000 followers by month 14 and growing. Her caption style was always the same: "Living my best life and God's favor is real," as though the favor had arrived without any human hands underneath it. Cole watched the account grow with a complicated silence. His CFO, Raymond, pulled him aside one afternoon after a board meeting. "Cole, we need to talk about the personal accounts." "What about them?" Raymond set a folder on the desk. Cole opened it. Inside was a 12-month summary of Zara's spending. He turned the pages slowly. The total, across all supplementary cards and household accounts she had access to, was $2,300,000. In 1 year. Cole sat back in his chair and said nothing for a very long time. "She's also been speaking to a travel concierge," Raymond added carefully, "about a private villa in Tuscany for 8 weeks this summer. The quote we received was $900,000. "Stop the authorization," Cole said quietly. "Done. Are you all right?" Cole closed the folder. "No, but I will be." That night he came home and watched Zara move around their kitchen in a silk robe, pouring herself a glass of imported wine she had ordered by the case, scrolling through her phone with one hand, humming something. She had not cooked a single meal since they were married. The housekeeper did that. The housekeeper also did the laundry, cleaned the apartment, managed grocery deliveries, and handled anything else that might have required Zara to lift a hand. Cole sat at the kitchen island and watched her, and for the first time he asked himself a question he had been avoiding for a year. Who is this woman, and does she love me, or does she love this? He thought about his mother's cracked hands. He thought about the cot in his first office. He thought about peanut butter sandwiches. He thought about the men he had known who had worked their entire lives to build something and handed it to a woman who consumed it like it had always been hers by right. He made a decision. He spent 2 weeks engineering it with Raymond and his legal team. A shell holding company, frozen assets on paper, banks notified with a legal mechanism that made the freeze appear entirely real. Even Cole's closest business contacts were told only that he was going through a liquidity restructuring. He moved their lifestyle assets quietly. The penthouse was sold to one of his subsidiary companies, which no one else knew he owned. The supplementary cards were deactivated. The housekeeper was given a paid leave of absence and told simply that things were changing for a while. And then one evening, Cole Whitfield came home, threw a glass against the floor, and told his wife they had lost everything. Zara's first response, after the initial shock, was disbelief. "That's not possible," she said, her voice climbing. "Cole, you have $300 million. You have 14 properties." "You have." "Had," he said. He sat at the kitchen island, face deliberately flat. "The Meridian deal collapsed. The bank called the note on 4 of the properties simultaneously. The others are being liquidated to cover the debt. By the end of next month, we will have approximately $40,000 in a personal savings account in this." He slid a paper across the counter. It was a rental agreement for a 2-bedroom apartment in Elgin, a working-class neighborhood 40 minutes from the city center. Zara picked up the paper. She read it. She set it down. She picked up her wine glass and took a long, slow sip while she stared at the rental agreement like it was something she could refuse. "Elgin," she said finally. "Elgin," he confirmed. "Cole," she put the glass down carefully. Her voice had shifted into a register he recognized, the one she used when she was managing her own panic. "We cannot live in Elgin. My followers, my content, our lifestyle." "We don't have a lifestyle anymore," he said. "We have each other, that's what's left." The silence that followed was loud enough to hear. Zara looked at her husband across the kitchen island for a long, searching moment. He watched her face carefully, watched her cycle through calculations she thought she was hiding. Then she drew a breath, smoothed her robe, and said, "Okay, we'll figure it out." But her eyes did not match her words, and Cole Whitfield noticed. They moved into the apartment in Elgin on a Friday. It was a ground-floor unit in a building that had seen better decades. The walls were painted a beige that had yellowed with time. The carpet in the bedroom was an uncertain shade of brown. One of the kitchen cabinet doors hung slightly off its hinge, and the bathroom tiles had grouting that no amount of cleaning would fully restore. Cole carried the boxes himself. Zara stood in the center of the living room with her arms slightly raised from her sides, the way a person stands when they are afraid to touch something. "This is," she turned slowly, "this is where we're living." "For now," Cole said. He set a box down and stretched his back. "Maybe longer, I don't know yet." "Cole, the bathroom, there's mold on the ceiling." "I'll look at it tomorrow." "We can't live like this." Her voice broke slightly on the last word, and Cole felt the echo of something genuine in it, but he kept his face still. "People do," he said simply. "My mother did for years." Zara looked at him, then she looked away. The first week was an education. Without the housekeeper, Zara had to navigate things she had not thought about in 2 years. Laundry, cooking, mopping, the small, relentless maintenance of a real life. She burned the eggs on Monday, undercooked the rice on Wednesday, and on Thursday stood in the kitchen staring at a raw piece of chicken like it had personally offended her. "I don't know how to cook this," she admitted. Cole looked up from the table where he was reading. "You used to cook. When we first met, you cooked." "That was before." "Before what?" She didn't answer. She put the chicken back in the fridge and ordered fast food on her personal card instead. Cole clocked it, her personal card. She still had one he had never touched. The next morning he woke before her and sat in the narrow kitchen with a cup of instant coffee. The instant coffee was bitter and thin. He drank it anyway. He thought about the first time he had drunk bad coffee willingly. He was 22, working a double shift at a construction site in summer heat, and the coffee from the foreman's flask had been burnt and old and the most satisfying thing he had tasted in weeks because he had earned it. That was the difference. He had always known what everything cost. She had never had to. When she came into the kitchen in silk pajamas she had packed first, before anything practical, and opened the fridge with the expression of someone who had just discovered it, was also a personal insult. He felt not cruelty but a deep, aching sadness. "There's nothing in here," she said. "You'll need to go shopping," he said. She looked at him. "I've never done the grocery shopping. Marina always." "Marina is on leave." "So what are we supposed to eat?" "Whatever you buy at the store down the road. 12-minute walk." Zara looked at the window, then at her silk pajamas, then at Cole in a way that made it clear she considered this situation something he was doing to her, rather than something they were navigating together. "This is humiliating," she said softly. Cole put down his coffee. "Grocery shopping is not humiliating. It's how human beings eat. I grew up doing it every Friday with my mother, her standing in an aisle reading the back of a tin to check if we could afford it. She never called it humiliating. She called it Thursday." He rinsed his cup and left for the day. By the second week, Zara's mood had shifted from stunned endurance to low, simmering resentment. She stopped trying to cook. She stopped asking about the situation. She spent long hours on her phone, and when Cole tried to look over her shoulder once, she angled the screen away with a practiced naturalness that looked too practiced. She had also started leaving the apartment in the evenings. "Where are you going?" Cole asked the first time on a Tuesday. "Out, I need air." "Out where?" "Cole," she said his name the way she used to when she thought he was being unreasonable. "Must you interrogate me? I'm stepping out." She came back 2.5 hours later smelling of a restaurant he recognized, a place on the good side of town. He started paying closer attention. She was calling someone she referred to only as him in her phone contacts. Cole saw the name once when her screen lit up on the kitchen table while she was in the shower. He didn't touch the phone. He just stood over it and read what was visible, a message that said, "Tonight, same spot." He put his hands in his pockets and walked to the window. He stood there for a long time. The conversations between them grew brittle and short. Zara had begun to look at the apartment and at Cole with an expression he could only describe as assessment, like she was calculating something, like she was deciding. One evening he came home and she was sitting at the small kitchen table with a cup of tea going cold, staring at nothing. When she heard him come in, she looked up, and for a split second he caught something raw in her face before she covered it. "How was your day?" he asked. "Fine." "Zara," he sat down across from her. "Talk to me, please. We used to talk." She wrapped both hands around the mug. "What do you want me to say, Cole? That I'm happy. I'm not happy. I'm sitting in a moldy apartment in Elgin trying to figure out if this is actually my life now." "It's our life," he said. "Mine too. You built something and lost it. That's your consequence. I didn't lose anything. I got dragged into your loss." Cole stared at her. "You got dragged," he repeated slowly. "I'm not saying it's your fault," she said quickly. "I'm just saying this is hard for me, Cole. It's really hard." He nodded, said nothing more, got up, went to the bedroom, and sat on the edge of the bed with his hands clasped between his knees. His mother had ironed his school uniform every morning with a face full of quiet determination, never once calling her circumstances a consequence or a drag. He felt the comparison like a blade. 3 weeks into Elgin, Cole followed her. He did not feel good about it. He sat in a rental car 2 streets away and told himself he was not that man, the suspicious man, the jealous man. Then he remembered the message on her phone. "Tonight, same spot," and he waited. She came out of the building at 7:15 in a dress he had not seen her wear since better days. She had done her hair. She had on heels that were wrong for the cracked pavement of Elgin. She walked to the end of the street and got into a black car. Cole followed at a distance. They drove 20 minutes across the city and stopped outside a rooftop restaurant in the upscale Meridian district. Cole parked across the street and watched her step out of the car. A man met her at the entrance. He was tall, broad-shouldered, well-dressed in the easy, expensive way of someone who had never had to think about money. He kissed Zara on both cheeks and held the door open for her, and she laughed at something he said before they disappeared inside. Cole sat in the car for 40 minutes. His jaw was locked. His hands were still on the steering wheel. His mind was running every scene from the last 2 years through a new and terrible filter. He drove home. He didn't sleep. When she came in at 11:30, she found him in the kitchen with the lights low and a glass of water he hadn't touched. "You're up," she said. She didn't look guilty. She looked caught, which is different. "Who is he?" Cole said. Zara set her bag on the counter. "Who is who?" "The man you just had dinner with." A pause, very small, very telling. "That's Victor. He's an old friend. He's been texting you. Tonight, same spot. How many same spots have there been, Zara?" Her expression shifted. "You went through my phone." The screen lit up on the table. I read what was visible. I didn't touch it. "So you've been spying on me." I've been watching my wife disappear every other evening while we're supposed to be getting through the hardest time of our lives together. His voice was steady but quiet, that particular quiet that comes after a long time of not speaking. So I'm asking you plainly, who is Victor? Zara folded her arms. He's a friend from before I met you. We've stayed in contact. He's been supportive. Supportive how? Mentally, emotionally. He's someone I can talk to who isn't, she stopped. Isn't what? She looked at the floor, who isn't drowning. The word landed between them like something thrown. Cole looked at his wife for a long moment. Then he stood up, rinsed his untouched glass in the sink and went to bed. What happened over the next week is what Cole had been building toward all along, but he had not prepared for how clearly it would reveal itself. Zara stopped pretending. It was as though the confrontation had broken some seal. She no longer offered explanations for where she was going. She no longer attempted the small acts of domesticity she had been performing badly anyway. She started leaving in the afternoons now, not just the evenings. She started taking longer calls in the bathroom with the door locked. And then, on a Thursday morning, Cole was sitting at the kitchen table going through documents when she came out of the bedroom with a suitcase. Not a packed suitcase. Not yet. But she was holding it upright and looking at him with the expression of someone who had spent several days gathering something in their chest and had finally gathered enough. "We need to talk," she said. Cole folded his hands on the table. "Sit down." She sat, the suitcase leaned against the chair beside her. "I've been thinking," she said, "a lot about us, about this." She gestured at the apartment without looking at it, the way you gesture at something you've already decided to leave. "I don't think I can do this, Cole." "Do what exactly?" "This life, this version of things, it's not what I signed up for." Cole leaned back slowly. "And what did you sign up for?" She pressed her lips together. "Us, a real life, a good life." "And this isn't a real life. This isn't the life we had." "The life we had," he said. "Tell me about that life. What was it to you?" She frowned. "Cole, don't be like this. Don't make it philosophical. I'm trying to be honest with you." "Then be honest. I'm listening." He opened his hands on the table. "What was our life to you?" She looked at him. She looked at the suitcase. She looked at the moldy bathroom ceiling she could see from where she sat, and then she said something she could not take back. "It was everything I always wanted, and now it's gone. And I'm sorry, Cole, but I cannot sit in this apartment and pretend that what's left is enough for me." Cole said, "And Victor?" The silence was very complete. "He's offered to help me get back on my feet," Zara said quietly. "Help you," Cole repeated, "not us." She did not correct him. Cole stood up from the table. He walked to the window and looked out at the ordinary street below, a woman pushing a stroller, a man hosing down his car, two children arguing over a bicycle. A real life. An ordinary, uncurated life. He turned around. "I need to show you something," he said. He pulled out his phone and made a single call. "Raymond, release it." Zara watched him. Release what? Cole's phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then again. He turned it around and placed it on the table in front of her. Bank notifications, asset confirmations, property alerts, one after another after another. Zara looked at the phone. She looked at Cole. She picked it up slowly and began scrolling. "These are," her voice faltered. "These are your properties, all of them. Cole, these are still yours." "They were always mine," he said. "I never lost a thing." She stood up so fast the suitcase fell over. "What?" "All of it was staged. The collapse, the frozen assets, the move here. I engineered it, every detail, because I needed to know the truth that 2 years of luxury had been hiding from me." "You," she pressed a hand to her mouth. Then she dropped it. "You lied to me. For a month you lied to me and put me in this place. And the first thing you did," he said, voice steady, "was find another man. That is not." "Don't." His voice did not rise, it did not need to. Zara, I watched you. I watched how quickly the mask came off. You never once sat with me and said, let's rebuild together. You never once picked up the phone to look for work. You never once made a plan. You just floated. And when the floating got uncomfortable, you found someone else to float toward. That's not fair. Her voice cracked. You put me in an impossible situation. I put you in the situation I grew up in, Cole said. I put you in the situation my mother lived in her entire life. And she raised me, worked 3 jobs, and never once told anyone she had been dragged into someone else's circumstances. Zara flinched at the word. He had remembered. You spent $2,300,000 in 1 year, Cole said. He sat down again because this was not a moment for standing. This was a moment for looking at someone clearly, face to face, without drama or performance. 2 million. On clothes, on flights, on furniture you changed twice, on content for strangers on the internet. And when I sat with you and asked you about it, you told me 80,000 was nothing to me. You told me to enjoy it. Zara said nothing. Her arms were wrapped around herself now. Zara shook her head slowly. Cole, I didn't know the full picture. You never sat me down and explained where it all came from. You just gave me access and let me figure it out. Figure it out, he repeated. What does a person figure out when someone hands them a no-limit card? They figure out what they want, and what you wanted told me everything. He leaned forward. Do you know what I didn't see even once in 2 years? I didn't see you ask to come to the office. I didn't see you ask about the deals, the teams, the people who worked for us. I didn't see you ask what any of it actually involved. Not one question, Zara. Not one. I'm not a businesswoman, she said stiffly. You didn't have to be. You just had to be curious. You just had to care. Not about the money, about the man behind it. He sat back. When I came home exhausted and said I'd lost a bid worth 40 million, you said, sorry babe, and went back to your phone. When I told you the Meridian Towers were going to take 3 years to complete and I wasn't sure we had the capital, you said, you'll figure it out, and asked what restaurant we were going to that weekend. Her mouth opened slightly. I thought I was being encouraging, she said. You were being absent, he said, not harshly, but with the precision of someone who had spent a month reviewing every moment for exactly this conversation. There's a difference between support and spectating. I needed a partner. I had an audience. Zara stood up from the chair and walked to the window. She pressed one hand flat against the glass and looked down at the ordinary street and the people on it who did not know her and never would. Her voice, when it came, was smaller than he had ever heard it. I didn't know I was doing that. I genuinely didn't know. I believe you, Cole said. That's almost the worst part. That money, he said, represents the years I slept on a cot in a cold office. It represents the weekends I gave up, the relationships I missed, the version of me that ate the same peanut butter sandwich for 1.5 years because every cent had to go back into the business. You didn't spend money, Zara. You spent time. My time. Years of my life. And you did it without ever once asking what it cost to earn. Tears had started to run down her face. She did not wipe them. I didn't know, she whispered. You didn't want to know, he said, not unkindly but without mercy either. Knowing would have come with responsibility, and responsibility would have required you to be something other than someone enjoying what someone else built. That's cruel. Is it, or is it just true? She sat down. She sat on the edge of the chair with the fallen suitcase beside her and the moldy ceiling above her and the ordinary street outside, and she cried. Not performance crying. Something rawer than that. Something that might have been genuine understanding arriving too late. Cole watched her. He did not move toward her. He felt the ache of it because he had loved her, still loved her in some quiet mechanical way that the body keeps doing long after the heart has been instructed to stop. But love was not the same as permission, and forgiveness was not the same as continuation. He offered to help me get back on my feet, she had said. Not us, me. That one word had done what a month in Elgin could not. It had told him the shape of her heart. Zara, he waited until she looked at him. Do you love me? And I mean me, not the penthouse, not the jet, not the card, me. Cole Whitfield from the east side of Houston who wore the same shoes for 2 years and built something from nothing. Do you love that man? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled too tight. She said, I love who you are when you have everything. He nodded once, slowly, like a man receiving a verdict he had spent a month preparing for. I know, he said, that's the problem. Cole sat in the empty apartment for a long time after their exchange. The refrigerator hummed. Someone's television played through the wall. He could hear children in the corridor, laughing about something with the reckless, full-throated joy that children have before life teaches them economy. He thought about the moment she had said it. Not us. Me. Victor had offered to help her get back on her feet. Not back on their feet. Not the marriage. Her. And she had said it so naturally, without flinching, the way a person says something they have been thinking for long enough that it no longer feels dangerous to say out loud. That was what a month in Elgin had accomplished. Not her departure. That had always been a possibility he had held in his chest like a stone. What the month had accomplished was the removal of every cushion between her and her own truth. Take away the designer life. Take away the housekeeper and the jet and the penthouse and the content and the followers. Take away the architecture of comfort he had built around her. And what was left? A woman who did not know how to boil rice. A woman who called ordinary life humiliating. A woman who, when the luxury evaporated, did not reach for her husband's hand. She reached for her phone. He did not throw her out that day. He gave her 2 weeks, which she did not use to fight for the marriage. She spent them arranging her departure. Victor came twice to pick up boxes. On the second visit, Cole happened to be home, and the two men looked at each other across the hallway of the Elgin apartment with the politeness of people who understand they are on opposite sides of something they did not choose. Zara left on a Saturday morning. She took her designer bags, the ones that had survived the move because she had packed them in tissue paper herself, and her clothes and her personal card, and the social media following she had built on a life that now belonged to someone else's story. She did not take the suitcase she had packed that Thursday. She left it leaning against the chair where it had fallen. Cole did not know if that meant something. He decided it did not matter. Raymond called 2 days later. We can move you back to the penthouse. Everything is in order. Cole was quiet for a moment. Not yet. Sorry. I'm going to stay here a few more weeks. I need to remember something. Remember what? What it feels like to live in the world I built from. He sat in the apartment that evening. He made himself a simple dinner, rice and stew, the way his mother used to make it. He ate at the small kitchen table and listened to the sounds of the building around him. Neighbors, a television through the wall, a child being called in for dinner by a mother whose voice carried all the exhaustion and love in the world at the same time. He thought about what he had known going in, and what he had not anticipated coming out. He had known there was a chance she did not love him. He had not anticipated how clean the confirmation would feel, and how much that cleanness would hurt. He had known he would recover. He had not anticipated how long he would sit in an Elgin apartment eating rice and stew just to feel like himself again. He had known he was testing her. He had not known the test would also test him, would reach back through the experiment and ask him, what do you deserve? What will you accept? What does a man build toward if not a love that holds? He did not have an answer yet, but he was sitting with the question, which was more than he had been able to do for 2 years. On the wall of the small living room, there was a crack in the plaster that ran from the ceiling to roughly 2 feet down, thin as a pencil line. The kind of crack that buildings develop over time under the weight of being lived in. It was not a structural problem. It was just age and settlement. Cole looked at it every evening. He found it, in a way he could not fully explain, honest. Buildings cracked, marriages cracked, hearts cracked. The question that mattered was whether what had cracked had any foundation worth repairing. Some things did. Some things you simply had to let settle, and then build something else in the cleared ground. Cole Whitfield had built his empire once before from nothing. He would do it again, not the empire. He still had that. He would build again the thing he had let himself forget to protect while he was busy accumulating. His judgment. His standards. The knowledge, kept sharp and never pawned, of exactly what he was worth, not in dollars but in the truest currency of all. The kind of woman who would sit in a cracked apartment with him and not pick up her phone to find a way out. That woman was worth every penny he had ever earned. He just had to find her. If this story hit different, drop a comment below. What would you have done in Cole's position? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, so you never miss a story that keeps you up thinking. The next episode is already waiting.